Follow the leader. KBLA Talk 1580. Follow the leader. If you're not following KBLA Talk 1580 on all of our socials, then you're missing out. Download our app and find us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and on the web at KBLA 1580.
That's right.
Again, you can find all of our socials at KBLA 1580.
We've got a lot to talk about.
By the way, if you miss any of our weekday shows in real time, you can always catch up by checking out the podcast of your favorite shows at your leisure. At KBLA Talk 1580, we've got your black.
Got your black.
I keep
following the leader.
Oh my God. Follow the leader. Follow the leader. Follow the leader. Follow the leader.
Look in my eyes, what do you see? The cult of personality. I know your anger, I know your dreams. I've been everything you wanna be. Oh, I'm the cult of personality.
All right, we'll rock and roll to get you going on your way, an afternoon drive time in LA or DC and everywhere in between. You're listening to A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. I'm Dr. Nii-Quartelai Quartey, your host and chief White House correspondent, always in touch. And so you make sure you tap in, be in touch. You can join us anytime just by downloading the KBLA app to listen to us live or on demand. You can tell Alexa to play KBLA Talk 1580. You can subscribe to A More Perfect Union powered by KBLA and never miss an episode. Now, I hope you all are planning on coming out to Altadena to see me, to see Dominique DePrima, my colleague who has the early morning shift, hosting First Things First right here on KBLA Talk 1580. You'll also see my new colleague, James Farr, who is the host of the Conversation Live, Altadena Rising, and Tavis Smiley, our very own Tavis Smiley, nationally syndicated Tavis Smiley, Chief Visionary Officer of KBLA, Tavis Smiley, also going to be joining us as well. You're invited to our KBLA Talk 1580 Town Hall. It's called the Altadena Eat and Fire 100 Days and Counting. Well, guess what? The first 100 attendees are going to receive complimentary air purifiers. And so make sure you get there early. Don't be late. Plus, we're giving away $100 gift cards, Safeway, Albertsons, Pavilions, Bonds. We are, those always come in handy. And so come early, and come prepared to listen and to share. We have some extraordinary guests that are on the ground in Altadena, on the ground in Pasadena, while talk about the fires may have faded from the national headlines. They ain't faded. They have not faded here at KBLA Talk 1580. We are committed to the recovery and rebuild efforts that we know are going to take some time. And that's why you need to set your alarm clock on Saturdays at 10 a.m. Pacific to listen to James Farr's Conversation Live, Altadena Rising. That is the show of record that is following all things related to the recovery and rebuild efforts of Altadena. And we are proud to be the only station with that show of record. But this town hall, it's featuring people like Dr. Ishelle Williams, who's a licensed marriage and family therapist. You can expect to see folks like Brandon Lamar, the NAACP Pasadena president. Also, Andre Coleman, the managing editor of Pasadena Now. Ash Level, who is an Altadena Rising Collective organizer. I mean, just folks on the ground, the chair of the Pasadena Community Coalition, Martin Gordon, as well as Veronica Jones, the president of the Altadena Historical Society. And so these are some incredible leaders on the front lines. Join us Wednesday, April 16th from 4 to 6 p.m. Pacific. That's 7 to 9 p.m. Eastern. And so on April 16th, when you tune in, you won't be hearing a More Perfect Union because we're going to be live on the ground in Pasadena. And so make sure that you tap into the YouTube channel, our KBLA Talk 1580 YouTube. And of course, we're going to be at the Robinson Park Recreation Center in Pasadena. That's 1081. That's 1081 North Fair Oaks in Pasadena. We got you covered with some light refreshments to follow. Our thanks to Quinn Emanuel Trial Lawyers, and again, the Pasadena Community Coalition, Altadena Strong, among others. We really want to thank them for being great partners in doing this. Now, it's time for your National News Roundup. It's time for you to decide the good, bad, and ugly headlines of the day. Just while we've been on air, the New York Times is reporting that the IRS chief is said to resign after the data sharing deal with ICE. This is where things stand as of now. The acting head of the Internal Revenue Service is stepping down, according to 3 people familiar with the matter, after the agency agreed to share undocumented migrants' tax information with the Immigration and Customs Enforcement, a fundamental change in how the tax collector uses its tightly regulated records. A federal judge, I'm sure a number of federal judges are going to be looking at this, but this is big news, just reported by the New York Times within the past half hour. And listen, isn't it ironic that the candidate turned president turned candidate turned president, he didn't want anybody looking at his tax records. He didn't want anybody looking at his tax returns. He didn't release his tax returns. Had his tax returns under lock and key. But under his leadership, the Internal Revenue Service is reportedly sharing undocumented migrants' tax information. They're sharing their information with the government. So he didn't want his information shared with the government or shared with the public, but you're sharing the information of undocumented folks. If this is not do as I say and not as I do, I don't know what it is. Moving along, from first take to first term. Y'all see this? Stephen A. Smith is teasing a run for president. You can't make this stuff up. The Grio's reporting that Stephen A. Smith, who's known for dominating the sports debate desk, but now he might be shifting his attention to a different kind of arena, the political one. Less than a month after brushing off the idea, the ESPN host declared on X that he's not shutting the door on a presidential run. Smith, 57, has built a career on bold, hot takes, but most recently, he's made headlines for his public spat with LeBron James, but now it seems like political speculation is the newest headline tied to his name, with voters increasingly looking for voices outside of the usual political circle. Smith's name has started to pop up in conversations around the 2024 and 2028 elections, as many Democrats express concerns about the party's direction and leadership. Look, you had a reality TV president who ran the first time back in 2016, won, lost, and now he ran again and he's back again. And so, look, I think Donald Trump is proving that there is a new playbook, this new political playbook that's being written, and we shouldn't just sort of write off these personalities that are interested in occupying the highest office in the land. Moving along, the Texas Senate has passed the Hughes bill to require retroactive child support from the conception date. Can't make this stuff up either. KLTV, the ABC affiliate in Austin, is reporting that members of the Texas Senate passed a bill today that would require a child's father to pay retroactive child support beginning from the baby's conception date. SB 942, presented by Senator Brian Hughes, passed the Senate with a vote of 27-4. Following several questions and discussions, Senator Sarah Eckhart asked Hughes if the bill took into consideration those who believe life starts after birth. She also asked if parents with male children should save up extra money for when he became sexually active in preparation for the financial risk of the additional child support. Hughes also said the added difference in child support between conception and birth would not be much difference in comparison to the amount that's already required to be paid after birth, but that it would, quote, recognize to the mom, those expenses are real and those costs are real. And so, you got Republicans testing out some wild stuff in the states, and you better believe they're just testing it in the states. And with their control of both the House and the Senate, don't be surprised if you see a bill or amendment that sounds remarkably similar pop right on up on the national radar. When we come forward, I am looking forward to a conversation with a survivor, Lanisa Frederick, who is an award-winning actor and writer whose podcast, Black and Cultivated, is really creating a lot of buzz. It's a comedy-driven series where she interviews former Black and Brown cult members like herself, as they share their experiences of surviving cult life. Can you imagine what that's like to experience cult life and break out of it? I can't imagine it, but Lanisa can. And she's here with us to talk all about it. You are listening to and streaming A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. More when we come forward.
You're listening to A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about. Before the fire, Altadena was a real-life Wakanda. A thriving Black oasis just 15 miles from downtown Los Angeles. 80% Black residents were homeowners, building intergenerational wealth against the odds. It was a hub of Black-owned businesses, churches, and cultural institutions. It stood as a symbol of Black resilience and economic independence. Then, in a matter of hours, it was gone. The fire tore through homes, swallowed businesses, and left behind a painful void. But was it just an unstoppable act of nature, or was negligence involved? Did officials ignore early warning signs? Were the response efforts delayed or insufficient? What role, if any, did corporate or government failures play? Survivors are demanding answers. Don't miss our KBLA Talk 1580 Town Hall. The Eden Altadena Fire, 100 days and counting, on Wednesday, April 16th, 4 to 6 p.m. at the Robinson Park Recreation Center, 1081 North Fair Oaks in Pasadena. Join Dominic DePrima, Nii-Quartelai Quartey, James Farr, Tavis Smiley, and a panel of survivors, community leaders, and experts as we commemorate day 100 since the wildfires flared up, and we discuss where we go from here. It's KBLA's Eden Altadena Fire, 100 days and counting Town Hall, Wednesday, April 16th, 4 to 6 p.m. at the Robinson Park Recreation Center in Pasadena. Light refreshments to follow. Admission is free, but sign up is required at our KBLA1580.com website. The first 100 attendees will receive a complimentary air purifier. This is a community call to action brought to you by KBLA Talk 1580 and Quinn Emanuel Trial Lawyers. At KBLA Talk 1580, we've got your black.
Privacy policy and terms and conditions posted at textplan.us. Texting enrolls for recurring automated text marketing messages. Message and data rates may apply or apply stop, opt out. Individual results may vary. Consult a doctor prior to use.
If you've struggled to lose weight in the past, this important message is for you because you could lose as much as 50 pounds or more with Zelfie. Zelfie makes it easy and affordable to get weight loss treatment 100% online. Zelfie providers can prescribe FDA-approved GLP-1 weight loss medications clinically shown to help people lose weight like Wegovy, Zepbound, and others. Plus, help get the medication covered by insurance so it's as little as $0 a month.
The doctors are super helpful, and the meds have been a game changer. It's the first program I've had success with.
Before Zelfie, I was unable to lose weight, even though I was eating healthy and exercising 6 days a week. Zelfie helped me not only lose weight, but I feel so much better.
Text GOAL to 200-300 to get started today with Zelfie and see if weight loss medications like Wegovy or Zepbound are right for you. Don't wait. Text now for a link to your exclusive offer. Text GOAL to 200-300. That's GOAL to 200-300. GOAL to 200-300.
We have no permanent friends or permanent enemies. Only permanent interests. As we effort to build a more perfect union.
You are listening to and streaming A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. It's not every day you get to talk to a multi-hyphenate. I'm talking about an award-winning actor and writer and podcast host, Lanisa Frederick, whose podcast, Black and Cultivated, is creating so much buzz. Who would have ever thought that somebody could take such a serious topic and turn it into a comedy-driven series where she's interviewing former Black and brown cult members like herself as they share their experiences surviving cult life. Welcome to the show, Lanisa.
Hey, how you?
I'm well. How are you doing?
I'm good. I have to have you do my intro all the time. That was beautiful.
well, Lanisa, let me just say, you don't look like what you've been through at all. For folks who are unclear about what we mean by cult life, because you hear a lot of people using that C word these days when they describe, people whose politics may be radically different from theirs, or folks whose gender identity may be radically different from theirs. Share with us your operational definition of a cult and what really constitutes cult life.
Honey, that is the question of the hour, to be honest, because there is such a broad spectrum of, and first of all, thank you for having me on. I appreciate that. There's such a broad spectrum when it comes to cult because it is used so widely. So in my research and in my doing this, as I was uncovering, wait, what makes me say that I was in a cult? I've come up with a few things. I think primarily the first thing is I have to say that a lot of religious scholars and cultural anthropologists and religious anthropologists often say that cult plus time equals religion. So I was joking with a friend who helped me out a lot when I was figuring this out for myself. I said, so basically a cult like Scientology, they just need more time. That's it. They just needed some more time. And he cracked up and said, yeah, that's a good point. Watch, I offended. By the way, I probably will offend people. So here we are. But the idea of religion plus time equals cult. But in a more nuanced and specific definition, as I was going through my own journey to figure out, hey, was this a cult or was it just some crazy beliefs? A few of the things that stuck out to me that a lot of people look at are the following characteristics. Number one, is there a charismatic leader who is the ultimate authority on things and members often follow unquestionably? Is there uniformity in their beliefs, and is critical thinking discouraged? And are you maybe punished for such? For example, are you punished physically, emotionally, isolated? Are you exiled from your church? And even in cases, I think, where cult members may not live together, because we ain't lived together or anything like that, but there's often times where you are encouraged to spend a lot of free time doing activities in that group. So limiting time spent with outsiders. I talked to a few other members of my former church about this attitude, almost hubris or elitist attitude that comes from believing that you are the right church, quote unquote. We are the true church. So there's the belief that we as in the cult, we're right, everyone else is wrong. How dare I try to even entertain another idea? And then I think finally, when I was looking through my church specifically, some wild or wacky beliefs that's gonna make you clutch your pearls. And you know, in general, some people might even be like, hey, well, God is a weird or it's a wacky belief. But I think regardless of our position or your position on that, we can say that believing in God is in general an acceptable norm. So I'm talking about stuff that goes beyond that. For example, my cult believed that and was very doomsday focused. He predicted the end of the world in like 43, 47, 75, 80. He had a few dates he had that the world was going to end. And another thing that stood out to me was that the doctrine was based in British Israelism, which is basically the doctrine that white people from the UK and the US are part of the 10 lost tribes of Israel. Even me saying it out loud sounds ridiculous, but that was the main doctrine that my cult really rested in. So that's a very long-winded answer, but I think it deserves a long-winded answer because it's something that's not, you don't want to just like throw it out there and leave it to everyone versus, hey, this is where I came from. This is the viewpoint that I came from. So yeah.
No, I really appreciate you sort of laying that out and orienting us to your view on what a cult is. I think you broke it down, and I think for a lot of people, based on your definition, they may look around and see a lot more cult-like behavior than they previously thought of. Talk to us about Black and brown cult members, because I think there is this perhaps misconception that Black folks and brown folks that we ain't into cults like that.
Exactly.
Right? That's white people stuff. And based upon not just your experience, but based on all the folks that you talk to on your award-winning podcast, Black and Cultivated, that's not true. Black folks and brown folks also find themselves engrossed in the cult life.
We out here. And I will say first, it's not award-winning yet. We just dropped, so it will be award-winning.
I'm sorry. I might have been prophesizing. Who knows?
Yes, you are. I like this. I'm good with that, though. I'm good with that. One of the primary reasons I wanted to do this was because as I was speaking to former members of my church, I realized that these were stories that were held in secret and held quietly. And I'm a big fan of getting the stories out. Let's talk. Let's communicate. I believe in storytelling. I think that tradition within our culture is strong. And I think that we have a responsibility. That is my responsibility to do that. So in putting the call out to other cult members, I've had so many people reach out that said, I didn't know there were other people in this like me. I didn't know that I was allowed to talk about it. I believe that is twofold. Number one, if we look at mainstream media, there's a new cult documentary on every day, right? NXIVM, How I Escaped My Cult. There's so many cult documentaries. Rarely do we see the perspective of Black and brown survivors. We might have, a little chocolate chip thrown in there every once in a while, but rarely do we get the perspective of someone that is Black and either was in a cult that was led by someone Black or in a Black family within a cult. We rarely get that because, our stories aren't often told, and when they aren't told well, we might be just thrown in there as a side. So I was seeing that. And then the second part is, I believe strongly, I think in the Black community, it's often a source of shame. We ain't gonna let white people know about our business. We shouldn't share things that are disgraceful. We shouldn't share things that, show us in a light that isn't perfect, and I think as a result of that shame, that we keep it in the dark. And in reality, Black and brown folks got a story to tell about this because we have been in cults. Some of us are still in cults, and it is our responsibility to share that information and talk about that, because once we are able to do that, it eradicates shame. It eradicates the idea of like, oh, they're dumb. I always say that nobody wakes up one day and say they want to be in a cult. Nobody goes like, you know what I'm going to do today? I'm going to be in a cult. No, what happens is that a charismatic leader usually, or an organization, manipulates a person and starts to warp their view. And eventually you realize, oh, wow, that's a cult. So.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's a very important point. I really want to lift that up, that for most people, it happens over time.
Exactly.
They don't just wake up the next day, okay, I'm in a cult,
Right.
But, talk to us about who was the first friend or family member that you spoke with where you actually said the words that I think I'm in a cult.
Well, so I'll give my background a little. I was born and raised in a church that is actually now defunct. Once all the funky beliefs and all the wild beliefs that they had eventually led to the end of the church. It now has splintered off into other types of churches. I think there's maybe 200 different splinters, but in its original form, Worldwide Church of God is no longer in existence. Fast forward, I spoke to my dad before he passed about it because I was a kid. I was a kid and I was like, that was weird. Okay. So talking to him, he did mention like, oh, there were some weird things, but you do the best you can as a parent and you don't know. Fair enough. Fast forward later, I started talking to peers that were in my church and I said, were we in a cult? And we all started researching and confirmed it with one another. And then I started talking to some older members as well, because I didn't want to just run out there and say some damaging thing about this organization that I grew up in and hurt people. I wanted to be real in my own research. I wanted to be real when talking to others. So yes, that it was a hard thing because that's hard to say. That's hard to be like, hey, guess what? I was in a cult. But once you say it, it's out. Then you have other folks that are able to talk about it, and you can start your the road to healing afterwards.
Yeah, and speaking of the road to healing, I really dig the way you use comedy as a means of both healing and education. Originally from Cincinnati, Ohio, Lanisa honed her craft in Chicago, working and training as an improv and sketch artist at the Second City Chicago, and performing at the Tony Award-winning Victory Gardens Theater, among so many other things. It's amazing how so many life experiences sort of come together to illuminate the path that we are on. When we come forward, more with Lanisa Renee Frederick. She is the host of a new podcast that just dropped. It's called Black and Cultivated. It's available on everywhere you get your podcast, particularly Apple Podcasts.
Absolutely.
And some really interesting stories of Black and brown folks who have survived the cult life. We're going to talk more about them and this podcast when we come forward. You're listening to and streaming A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580.
If you're looking to be engaged, enlightened, and empowered about issues related to national politics, elections, identity, culture change, and social justice, you tuned into the right place. A More Perfect Union continues when we come forward.
I'm Amber Payton with 4 Things You Should Know with BIN News. Black Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson is starting early on the city's next budget, warning of major gaps ahead, $1.12 billion in 2026 and $1.32 billion in 2027. Budget meetings begin this month. Stocks are closing sharply lower after a relief rally fizzled. The major averages turned red after surging to start the day on news the U.S. was in tariff talks with trading partners. 16 people are charged in a New York City murder conspiracy tied to 21 shootings. Black Mayor Eric Adams and Black District Attorney Alvin Bragg say rival gangs were behind half the precinct's gun violence. And California may defy a Trump administration order to cut DEI programs despite threats to pull billions in funding. State officials question the federal government's authority and are not urging districts to comply. Get BIN News on demand 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app.
Terrible traffic for the 134 eastbound, which is backing up all the way out of Burbank, leaving Buena Vista. Delays all the way into Eagle Rock as you make your way towards Colorado, Figueroa. This is due to a crash and police activity. And at last check, only the carpool lane was getting through. Delays stacked up for about 9.5 miles. It's going to take you just under an hour to drive through. A lot of people are saying, forget the 134, and they're taking the 210 eastbound instead. As a result, I'm seeing some very heavy traffic out of Sunland, leaving Sunland Boulevard eastbound all the way to the 210 connector after you make your way through the tunnels coming up on Fair Oaks.
Right now, there are young people across the world facing a tough choice: continue their dream of education or drop out to help their family put food on the table. You can help change their future in a single moment. See how far your support can go at unbound.org.
Is this the title?
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
The UCLA and USC women's basketball teams will finish the season ranked among the top 5 in the final Associated Press Top 25 poll. The final AP poll ranks UCLA 3rd and USC 5th. Connecticut is number 1, followed by South Carolina and Texas. If the Lakers happen to meet up with the Denver Nuggets in the playoffs, the Nuggets will have a new coach. Mike Malone was fired Tuesday morning with just 3 games left in the regular season. Malone was in his 10th year with Denver. The Nuggets have lost 4 straight and 7 of their last 10. In 2023, Malone led the Nuggets to a 4-game sweep over the Lakers in the Western Conference Finals en route to an NBA championship. Nuggets owner Josh Kroenke made the decision to kick Malone to the curb now instead of after the season. Josh is the son of Rams owner Stan Kroenke. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson. More news, opinions, and conversation when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
Follow the leader. KBLA Talk 1580. Follow the leader. If you're not following KBLA Talk 1580 on all of our socials, then you're missing out. Download our app and find us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and on the web at KBLA 1580.
That's right.
Again, you can find all of our socials at KBLA 1580. We've got a lot to talk about. By the way, if you miss any of our weekday shows in real time, you can always catch up by checking out the podcast of your favorite shows at your leisure at KBLA Talk 1580. We've got your black.
Got your black.
Follow the leader.
Following the leader.
Oh my God. Follow the leader. Follow the leader. Follow the leader.
This is the story of the one who, as a maintenance specialist for a historic high-rise, knows that vintage charm historically needs constant attention. Which is why, when it's time to upgrade turn-of-the-century mechanicals, they turn to Grainger. With easy access to 1 million-plus products and the scale to deliver when and where you need them. The right tools and supplies are never far away. So the one can keep that vintage building running like new. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Still getting around to that fix on your car? You got this. On eBay, you'll find millions of parts guaranteed to fit. Doesn't matter if it's a major engine repair or your first time swapping your windshield wipers. eBay has that part you need, ready to click perfectly into place for changes big and small. Loud or quiet, find all the parts you need at prices you'll love. Guaranteed to fit every time. But you already know that. eBay. Things, people, love. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580, connecting you with services and solutions. If you need help getting your resume in order, finding job training, or landing a job, we've got 3 great options for you. First, the City of Los Angeles has WorkSource centers across the area offering free job support. The California Workforce Development Board can help you with everything from GED prep to vocational training at no cost to you. On the federal level, the Department of Labor's American Job Centers offer a full range of services for job seekers and businesses alike. Visit careeronestop.org, or for more info, just call California's Help Center or visit cwdb.ca.gov or call 916-657-1440. For the City of Los Angeles programs, go to ewdd.lacity.gov or call 213-744-7300. All these services are free to help you get your next job. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
This is KBLA Talk 1580. Talk radio that's music to your ears. We're unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580.
Hit me.
National news of consequence, informed opinion, and analysis beyond the headlines. You're listening to A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580.
You look cozy.
I want to encourage all of our leaders, learners, and listeners to get cozy because I have a feeling that you're going to spill the tea. I'm sipping on some tea, but I think you're about to spill some tea. That's if you haven't already spilled it, folks. Go out and subscribe to Black and Cultivated Podcasts. You can check it out on Apple Podcasts and everywhere you get podcasts. We're talking to award-winning actor and writer Lanisa Frederick, whose podcast Black and Cultivated. It's this comedy-driven series where she's interviewing former Black and brown cult members like herself, and they share experiences about surviving cult life. And so, Lanisa, I know your story in the life happened at a church, specifically Worldwide Church of God, which is now defunct. But for folks who tap in and listen to your podcast series, are they going to hear of a whole wide range of cult experiences, or are they going to be mostly church related? Let us know what we can expect.
Absolutely. Well, foremost, they are all religion based. Season 2 will open up to other types because we all know that cults are bigger than just a religion. So we'll definitely open that up to more. But right now in season 1, what I really wanted to focus on was religious organizations that took advantage of people and led them down a path that was not righteous, so to speak. So I'm so proud and so grateful for all the guests that agreed to share and be vulnerable about their experiences. I have folks from a variety of different cults. I don't share too much. But I did mention and joke about Scientology a little earlier, and one of my first guests is from that, as well as House of Yahweh, which is another more well-known cult that is based in Texas. I do have, my goal was not to have all Worldwide Church of God, my organization. I wanted to have a variety. So I do have some from Worldwide Church of God, and I'm very proud of the fact that I was able to find people outside of my congregation that were interested in talking, as well as a diversity of age ranges, so we can get the breadth and understand what was actually happening. So yes, we have a lot of different organizations that take place in season 1. Right now, we've only dropped I believe 3 episodes. So we drop every Monday. This coming episode, I'm really excited. I talked to one of my Filipina sisters who I met when I mentioned I wanted to do this project. And she opened up and shared. I had no idea about her story. It's such a story of resilience and just strength. And I'm so proud that I was able to talk to her about her journey and escape from her cult.
I mean, I'm surprised at how common it is. I mean, obviously,
when
we look at the history of cults here in America and around the world, there is a history that we can't look away from. But there are even folks in what we like to call a more perfect group chat. All the folks that are streaming the show live right now on YouTube. We know there are at least a few folks who responded to our YouTube prompt. Have you ever been in a cult and didn't know it? And 50% of the folks who have responded thus far say yes. 50% say no.
Wow. Well, tell the 50% that said yes to reach out for me for season 2.
There you have it. There you have it. Tell your story and set yourself free in that spirit. Talk to us about what it takes to begin to shed the shame of having been in a cult. Nobody likes feeling taken advantage of. Nobody, wants to know that they were duped.
Right.
Talk to us about how you got folks to open up in a very public way and begin to ditch the shame associated with being in a cult.
For me, I think foremost was being able to share my experience. I had so many of my guests say, I would not have talked to anyone else, But because I know that you've been in a situation similar where you were born and raised in a cult, that I was more open to talk to you. And I think with that comes a sense of sensitivity and understanding of what we can and cannot play with. A lot of times, people joke around and they say, I talk about this on the podcast a lot, joke around and use the phrase, for example, oh, don't drink the Kool-Aid. And for us, for those that have been in cults, that's very sensitive. That's something that's like, do you really understand what that means? Over 900 plus people died in Jonestown because Jim Jones took advantage of Black and brown people that were seeking a utopia. And I don't look at them as suckers or fools. I look at them as victims of circumstance, victims of the structural racism of America. I look at them as victims of the world, essentially. So I think coming from that perspective and figuring out how I want to approach things. I am a comedic actor, so it comes from that. I married the two together and was able to have real and honest and funny conversations with my guests. It was also important that I spoke to people that have been, first of all, healing is not linear and it never really ends, but had been through far enough in the process that they felt healed enough at this point. My goal was not to do a gotcha moment at all in my podcast. It was never to unlock a wound that's still very raw. My goal is to have these honest and meaningful conversations with folks. So those on the outside too might be like, you know what? I think I'm in a cult too. They can figure that out for themselves and start their journey to healing.
So once somebody figures out that they're in a cult, like, what's next? I would imagine there are going to be people who listen to your podcast, listen to these stories, and may be surprised to learn, oh my goodness, like that's my story, right? And so, like, is there a national hotline for people that are blinking real fast and don't feel safe? Is there a national hotline for folks that are trying to escape cults?
What I always say first is safety is of import. So no matter what, no matter where you are, make sure that you're able to be safe. So similar to a relationship that turns violent or that is violent, it might take time for you to escape, and be okay with that. That's okay, because safety is priority. So once you realize that you are in a safe space to be able to get out, depending on the degree of how dangerous your cult might be, that's when you can start taking the steps to figure out what your needs are. I'm a big fan of therapy. I love a therapist. So I am strongly into, hey, let's talk this out in some capacity with a therapist. Because cults are such a hot topic, there are a number and multiple resources that people have. I know Cult News 101 is one of the resources that I share. Specifically because it's like a directory of a lot of different places. So Cult News 101, it was also important for me to share resources that were Black and brown as well. So if you go on our YouTube or our Instagram, you'll be able to see some of the Black and brown resources as well, and therapists that help you escape a cult if you are in that situation.
That's great. It's great to know there are Black and brown targeted resources for folks who are trying to escape a cult, and I appreciate you for recognizing that the fastest way to escape a cult, it sounds like, is slowly. This is not something that anybody should take on haphazardly, but safety first.
Absolutely.
Lanisa, while we still have you, I would be remiss if I didn't ask you about the MAGA movement. There are so many folks who refer to the Make America Great Again, the MAGA movement, as not just a political movement or a political revolution, but you see a lot of people who refer to it as a cult. And they reference the cult of personality that seems to exist around President Trump. And if we're being fair, I think there are cults of personality that exist around a lot of political figures, not just here in the United States, but around the world. And so what say you about this moment in time where, we're seeing a very unconventional president in a lot of ways, to say the least. And
that was a very nice way to say that.
Yes, and you know, you're seeing this cult worship where it's almost as if he makes no mistakes. He can't say anything that's wrong.
Yeah.
That if there's a problem, it has nothing to do with him. How can we all do a better job trying to break through to folks who may be stuck in a cult-like mindset and not even know it? And these are folks who may be stuck in a cult-like mindset in a religious context, in a political context, in a social context. But, you know, first starting with our MAGA brothers and sisters and siblings, you know, how can we begin to break through in order to have the hard conversations?
Ooh, that's a hard one. I do think, foremost, I will say loud and clearly that I think it's a cult. I believe it is a cult, and I feel like it's getting more and more dangerous. I am a strong believer right now to protect your peace. So I am not one that says, oh, you need to break through someone and ensure, you know, that they don't believe something anymore. I think there are ways to have discussions if it's on the table with someone that you're close with. But I believe strongly in protecting our peace, especially with everything that's going on and everything that I think will go on as we continue in this administration. Protecting our peace is going to be of utmost importance, because if we're stressed, we all know stress is a huge killer for Black and brown folks, then nothing can get done. So I don't have a perfect answer as to like, well, how can I help my cousin JoJo understand that he should not have voted for him? But I do think that protecting your peace is of utmost priority, because we got a long road. We still got 3.5 more years.
We ain't even at the halfway mark. We barely
ain't. I tried.
We're barely touching 100 days.
I know. I
tried. You know, these are really challenging times in a lot of ways, and not just politically. I think your podcast that is available on Apple Podcasts and everywhere people get their podcasts, Black and Cultivated, it really gives us a window into a world that we don't know nearly enough about, particularly through a Black and brown lens. The fact that you are centering Black and brown voices, Black and brown stories, folks who have found themselves involved in that cult life, and who found a way out. These are not people that are currently in cults. These are people who found a way out. And we really want to thank you for telling these stories with integrity and also with a lot of humor, using comedy as a means for both healing and education.
Absolutely.
All right.
Well, thank you.
We'll be listening, and we'll have to have you back again soon.
Please do. It's been a joy. Thank you so much. It's been lovely talking to you, and thank you for everything.
Likewise, you're listening to and streaming A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. The quiet part out loud when we come forward.
Striving to make America a nation as good as its promise. This is A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
I feel so alone. I'm embarrassed to talk about it.
How can I help my kid if I can't help myself?
I can't remember when I wasn't stressed.
I don't like it inside.
When you feel overwhelmed by your thoughts and emotions, it's okay to get help. You are not alone. CalHope is here for you with free, safe, and confidential mental health resources for youth, young adults, families, and you. Find support now at calhope.org.
Olay Indulgent Moisture Body Wash.
It's me, Olay Indulgent Moisture Body Wash. I see those dry elbows, baby. But don't worry, get moisturized right in the shower. So hydrated you can skip the lotion after.
Don't want to see it dry no more. Skin so moisturized with body wash.
Look at you now. No more dry skin. Your skin gets the moisture it craves with
Olay Indulgent Moisture Body Wash.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580 reminds you, when we fight, we win. The Youth Justice Coalition is challenging America's addiction to incarceration and discrimination. YJC works to dismantle policies leading to mass incarceration, law enforcement violence, and the school-to-prison pipeline. Their approach? Transformative justice, community intervention, free LA high school, legal defense, and system monitoring. YJC promotes safety without relying on prisons. Their goal? Prevent system contact and help people exit the system through direct action, advocacy, and education. Want to get involved or need help? Call 323-235-4243. That's 323-235-4243. Join YJC in creating change. When we fight, we win. KBLA Talk 1580, your voice for justice. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
The California Crusader newspaper would like to thank all of our subscribers for their support throughout the years, proudly serving the South Los Angeles and South Bay areas for more than 40 years. The California Crusader is a multicultural, Black-owned, adjudicated newspaper that focuses on providing newsworthy information to the people in our community. We're constantly looking for ways to assist businesses in our community to connect with our subscribers. We provide low-cost, effective ways to promote your business with our reasonable and affordable advertising rates. You can participate by suggesting, sharing, and submitting your stories on the California Crusader newspaper Community Share Facebook group page, or visit our website at cal-cruise-news.com. That's calcruisenews.com. Then click on the Submit Now button located on the top right corner of the homepage, or text CCN to 42828. Again, text CCN to 42828. The California Crusader newspaper, working together to build a better community for our future. Subscribe today.
Notable journalists, industry leaders, lawmakers, change makers, tastemakers, and you, working to build a more perfect union on KBLA Talk 1580.
You are listening to and streaming a More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. I'm Dr. Nii-Quartelai Quartey, and it's not just time to share the quiet part out loud, but it's time to highlight someone who is doing the quiet part out loud. Talking about Kerry Washington. I don't know if you saw this article in Ebony magazine recently, but it was a reminder of all the work that Kerry Washington is doing beyond the screen. I'm talking about her impact in business, her impact in philanthropy, her impact in production, her impact in tech. Kerry Washington's influence knows no bounds. It transcends TV and film screens, and it embodies a dynamic blend of entrepreneurship, philanthropy, and production that amplifies marginalized voices, that champions social change. Her ventures reflect a commitment to ethical practices and community empowerment and narratives that resonate with authenticity and depth. That's what the folks over at Ebony magazine have shared in this recent article. When you think about her production company, Simpson Street, which is a production company named after the Bronx street where she grew up, the company has produced critically acclaimed projects like Confirmation. Remember that the HBO series about Anita Hill? That was amazing. She also produced projects like Little Fires Everywhere and Unprisoned, which focused on the complex narratives that center on Black women's experiences. As a philanthropist, she's been very involved with All Vote No Play. That initiative is another initiative called V-Day, which is all about pushing for voter engagement and gender justice. But her latest endeavor that has really caught my attention, it's her equity-focused investments. You see, Kerry Washington has strategically invested in companies like the Honey Pot Company, which is a Black woman-owned wellness brand, as well as 13 Loon, an inclusive beauty retailer. Her portfolio also reflects a commitment to amplifying Black entrepreneurship and reshaping industries from within. Look, all this talk about diversity, equity, and inclusion, the movement against all things DEI, the number of fair weather allies, shall we say, in corporate America that have stepped back from their commitments to diversity, equity, and inclusion. Kerry Washington, the way that she moves in this space reminds us that diversity, equity, and inclusion, DEI programs were always a tool towards widening the lens. It was a tool towards creating more opportunity, not less, for folks who have previously been relegated to the margins. And so when I learned that Kerry Washington is an investor in the Spill app, you know, the Black-owned social media platform founded by former Twitter employees. We've had their co-founder, Fonz Terrell, on this show a number of times. We've also had their chief growth officer, Kenya Parham, on this show a number of times. Well, Kerry Washington's an investor in that platform. Her support underscores her dedication to fostering inclusive digital communities, amplifying marginalized voices in the tech industry, and doing so without a whole lot of fanfare. Doing so before you had this race for AI, and before, you know, every multimillionaire and billionaire wanted to somehow have their own sort of media something in their investment portfolio. Kerry Washington is a real deal. Not only is she a talented actress on screen, but she is a humanitarian in every sense of the word. And so today, we're not just sharing with you the quiet part out loud, but we're talking about a leader on the front lines that is doing the quiet part out loud when no one's looking. And so we salute you, Kerry Washington, and we'll have to leave it there. My thanks to the entire village that helps us produce a more perfect union each and every day. Our executive producer, Tavis Smiley, our sound engineer, Andy, our show producers, Faraji and Art and Kim, and to each and every one of you, all of our leaders, learners, and listeners, we love you, and there ain't nothing you can do about it. Remember, don't panic, organize, do what you can from where you are with what you have. I'm Dr. Nii-Quartelai Quartey. You've been listening to and streaming A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580.